If you get those dreaded headaches behind the eyes, let's take a look at a few things you can do to alleviate that pain and discomfort. If you've ever had that headache that literally resides behind one or both eyes, what in the world could be the catalyst for that? That was the question that I recently received from somebody who for literally over a week, his right eye was twinging because there was so much tension behind the eye. Now again, I'm not an ophthalmologist. I don't want to overstep my bounds in regards to going and seeing a professional. But I just want to share with you guys the conversation that we had, because what we found out was it was actually a soft tissue issue that was going on in between his shoulder blades and his upper shoulders. If you stop and you look at the anatomy of the upper shoulder, you'll see that you have muscles such as levator scapula, you have the upper trapezius, you have a lot of muscles that insert right at the base of your hairline. If you take your thumb and you reach back behind, right where that hairline is at, right at the base of your skull there, if you take your thumb and you press gently, you might feel a little bit of tenderness. Well, that's where a lot of these muscle tissues insert and they integrate all in the back of your skull. Now what ends up happening is, and you got to go with me here from an anatomical standpoint, if you're looking at the scapula, look at all the muscles that are around the shoulder blade, also known as the scapula. Now let's look at the muscles that are on the top of the shoulder. Now remember, these are a lot of layers. Well, what happens is all the muscles are interrelated. So for example, you may have a spasm that's in your rhomboids. That's a muscle that runs from your spine to the vertebral border of the scapula. Just a fancy way of saying the side of your shoulder blade that faces the spine, the vertebrae. That's why they call it the vertebral border. Now look at all these muscles that attach from the spinal cord to the vertebral border of the scapula. So down deep into your shoulders, inside your back there, when that muscle tissue becomes tight, it causes the shoulder blades to pull backwards. Now think about this. Now we have our shoulders are being posteriorly pulled back. That's going to put a strain on the muscle tissue that runs from the base of your skull into the top of your shoulders, levator scapula, upper trapezius. You go, but Rob, the pain is in the back of my eyeballs. Yeah, stick with me here. You have a very small filament of muscle that goes up and over your scalp. And we have seen this so many times, particularly for people who do sports that require a lot of mental focus. I'm not just saying that that's the only people who suffer with it, but that ability to mentally focus. You put your eyes under a lot of duress, you're processing a lot of speed. Now stop and think about this. The muscles in between your shoulder blades are tight. It pulls on your upper traps. Now everything's being pulled down. Well, now this tissue that goes over the top of your scalp is being pulled back. It's very subtle. If you have small children, we've seen this when you do cranial sacral release, right? They do it a lot with infants, believe it or not. When they go through the birth canal, it kind of manipulates the top of the skull. A lot of times the child will cry quite a bit and they think it's because he or she is colicky. They'll actually go in and do cranial sacral work on infants and get a tremendous amount of relief. Well, as adults, we haven't gone through the birth canal in quite a few years, but we still have a lot of stress that pulls down on that scalp. You got to remember, you got all those parts of the skull that are just like other bones in the body, and they're pulled by soft tissue. So that's why I wanted to put this video together, is a lot of people don't correlate the back of your eyes, right? It's all interrelated. If you look at the screen here and you look at all the muscles that are in the face, and you look at the idea that all muscles interact together, well, you can imagine as it goes up and into the skull, and then it goes over the back and into your shoulders. This is why I want you to be a student of doing soft tissue trigger point therapy around your scapula. I want you to use the Theracane. It's the best device that I have found, or a Theragun, that allows you to be able to use, or rather get into the tightness in the upper traps. It's difficult unless you have somebody that stands behind you or has you laying flat on the massage table. It's hard to get into those upper shoulder areas. That's where the Theracane or the Theragun, you can get up on top of there and start to release some of the tension. And obviously it's just a chain reaction, right? We get the tension out of the shoulders, releases the tension off the back of the scalp, over and then behind our eyes. So if you've ever struggled with spasming eyes, give this a shot. Like I said, I'm not trying to overstep my bounds with eye doctors or anything like that. I'm just sharing with you our experience as well as the most recent conversation that I've had. If you happen to have a question, please do me a favor. Please send it to me and my team. contact@coachrob.com. We are answering your questions every day here on YouTube. So please remember to like and subscribe. Greatly appreciate your time today, and I certainly look forward to seeing you tomorrow.